Think of being shipwrecked, the terror, the struggle, the desperation. Now, picture it set to a jaunty theme song about a 3-hour tour. That was the improbable, yet undeniably successful, magic trick performed by Gilligan's Island. Premiering in 1964, this wasn't a gritty survival drama. It was pure, unadulterated escapism, a sunny antidote to the growing complexities of the real world. Its premise was straightforward to the point of absurdity. 7 disparate individuals marooned on a deserted island after a sudden storm. But the show's lasting power didn't come from if they would be rescued. Spoilers. They famously weren't, for the show's original run, but from how these wildly different personalities bounced off each other in their perpetual, often hilarious, attempts to get home. It was a masterclass in character-driven comedy and the creation of a comforting, isolated world that audiences yearned to visit week after week. It tapped into a universal fantasy, being whisked away from it all, and populated that fantasy with archetypes that were instantly recognizable and endlessly adaptable for comedic situations. The immediate appeal of Gilligan's Island lay in its complete and utter commitment to its premise, no matter how illogical it became. Here were 7 people, stranded, yet managing to build complex bamboo structures, power radios with coconuts, and even host a parade for a visiting headhunter in a dream sequence. But still, the island itself became a character, a lush, seemingly benign paradise that nonetheless presented just enough challenges to drive the plot forward. It was a world away from the viewer's own lives, a vibrant, tropical backdrop that promised warmth and adventure without any genuine peril. The storm that stranded them was the catalyst, but the island life was the show. Every episode offered a fresh variation on the central theme, a new rescue attempt thwarted, a bizarre guest star arriving, an improbable invention created by the professor. This repetitive structure, often criticized by cynics, was in fact a core part of its comforting charm. The audience knew they wouldn't get off the island, and paradoxically, that predictability was part of the fun. It wasn't about the destination, it was about the journey, or rather, the delightful stasis spent with characters we came to know and love. We weren't just watching them try to get rescued. We were watching them live on their own terms, creating a mini-society with its own rules and endless potential for gentle comedy. At the heart of the show were its 7 iconic castaways, each representing a distinct societal archetype, making their interactions a source of both conflict and comedy. There was, of course, Gilligan, played with wide-eyed innocence and boundless physical energy by Bob Denver. Gilligan was the little buddy, the bumbling, well-meaning first mate whose clumsy mistakes almost invariably ruined any chance of rescue. Yet, despite his constant screw-ups and the skipper's frequent exasperation, Gilligan possessed a fundamental goodness and a childlike perspective that often inadvertently saved the day or offered a moment of unexpected insight. Denver played him with such genuine sweetness that it was impossible to truly dislike him, even when he single-handedly dashed hopes of salvation. He was the idea of the group, driven by simple desires and reacting to the world with unvarnished emotion, providing endless fodder for physical gags and verbal misunderstandings. Counterbalancing Gilligan was the skipper, Jonas Grumby, portrayed with booming frustration and a surprising depth of affection by Alan Hawley Jr. The skipper was the authority figure, the captain burdened with the responsibility of getting everyone home, a task made infinitely harder by his first mate. Hale's performance was a masterclass in exasperated reactions and physical comedy, often involving harmlessly swatting Gilligan with his hat or dragging him around. Yet, beneath the bluster, the skipper had a huge heart and a deep, protective bond with Gilligan, referring to him as his little buddy even in moments of extreme annoyance. This dynamic was the show's central relationship, providing both conflict and the underlying warmth that anchored the series. Hawley and Denver had a palpable chemistry that made their captain-first mate relationship, however unconventional, feel genuine. Then we had the Howells, Thurston Howell III and Lovey Howell, played by the pitch-perfect comedic duo Jim Backus and Natalie Schafer. They represented the ultra-wealthy elite, completely out of their element, but determined to maintain their luxurious lifestyle even while stranded. Bacchus's Thurston was pompous, self-important, and constantly worried about his fortune, often hallucinating stock market reports and coconuts, while Schaefer's Lovey was delightfully oblivious and more concerned with fashion and social etiquette than survival. Their humor came from the juxtaposition of their upper-class concerns with the primitive island reality. Yet, the actors infused them with enough humanity that they weren't just caricatures. They were devoted to each other and, in their own peculiar way, cared about the other castaways. Their presence provided a constant source of situational comedy derived from their fish-out-of-water struggles. The female castaways rounded out the archetypes, offering different facets of femininity as viewed through a 1960s lens. There was Ginger Grant, the glamorous movie star, played by Tina Louise. Ginger was often portrayed as vain, self-absorbed, and focused on her career, using her acting skills to get her way or to play different roles in their island skits. Tina Louise brought a sophisticated allure to the role, often wearing glamorous, if impractical for island life, dresses. Her character provided opportunities for satire on Hollywood and the entertainment industry, though occasionally glimpses of vulnerability or genuine concern for the others would shine through, adding a touch of complexity. In contrast to Ginger was Marion Summers, the wholesome farm girl from Kansas. Portrayed with sincere sweetness by Dawn Wells, Marion was the picture of girl-next-door innocence, practical, kind-hearted, and often the most grounded of the group. Her common sense and down-to-earth nature provided a relatable counterpoint to the more eccentric personalities. Wells played Marion with genuine warmth and a subtle resilience, making her a quietly essential part of the group dynamics, often providing the moral compass or a dose of simple reality. The friendly rivalry, mostly in the eyes of the male castaways, between the glamorous movie star and the relatable farm girl was a running undercurrent of the show, playing on popular female archetypes of the era. Finally, there was the professor, Roy Hinckley, played with intellectual earnestness by Russell Johnson. The professor was the resident genius, capable of building complex scientific contraptions out of coconuts, vines, and bamboo, radios, washing machines, even a lie detector. His presence provided the logical or pseudo-logical explanations and the technical skills needed for their survival attempts. However, the show's great irony was that despite his brilliance, the professor could never figure out how to patch a hole in a boat or build a functional distress signal that actually worked to get them rescued. Johnson played the role with calm intelligence, making the professor's exasperation at the group's folly, especially Gilligan's, all the more effective. He represented intellect, but his inability to solve the one problem that mattered, getting rescued, was a constant source of comedic frustration and a core part of the show's repetitive charm. These 7 actors, embodying such distinct and often contrasting personalities, developed a remarkable chemistry that made the ensemble truly work. Their interactions, whether it was the skipper chasing Gilligan, the Howells complaining about the lack of caviar, or the professor explaining complex physics in simple terms, felt lived in and natural within the show's heightened reality. It was their commitment to these characters and their relationships that provided the foundation for the show's simple, good-natured humor. You tuned in not just to see if they'd be rescued, but to spend time with them, these familiar, reliable personalities facing ridiculous situations with earnest sincerity. Thinking about this group of distinct individuals, thrown together by chance and forced to cooperate to survive, highlights the show's underlying, if unintentional, themes of community, resilience, and finding a way to coexist despite vast differences. It's a powerful, feel-good message wrapped in a silly, entertaining package. If you appreciate shows that build their comedy on the strength of their characters and create a world you can escape into, then you'll want to explore more classic television series that mastered this art. Hit that subscribe button to join us as we continue to analyze the timeless appeal of shows that brought unique casts and comforting worlds into our homes. Gilligan's Island's humor was broad, often relying on physical comedy, catchphrases, and predictable character reactions. It wasn't sophisticated or cutting-edge, even for the 1960s. Critics often dismissed it as silly, lightweight, and repetitive, and in many ways, They were right. Yet, the show resonated profoundly with audiences and has maintained a remarkable presence in popular culture for decades through reruns, cartoons, movies, and specials. Its enduring popularity is a testament to the power of pure, unpretentious entertainment, relatable character archetypes, and the universal appeal of the desert island fantasy. It didn't try to be high art. It aimed to make people laugh and forget their troubles for half an hour, and at that, it succeeded spectacularly. The simplicity was not a weakness, it was its superpower. It was a show you didn't have to think too hard about, a comforting constant in a changing world, a reminder that even when things go wrong, you can still build a life and a coconut radio in paradise, surrounded by friends. The show's legacy is cemented not just in its ubiquitous reruns, but in how deeply its characters and premise are embedded in the cultural consciousness. Everyone knows Gilligan, the skipper, the millionaire, the movie star, the professor, and Mary Ann. They are more than just characters. They are archetypes that persist in jokes, references, and even academic discussions about popular culture. The phrase "a 3-hour tour" instantly evokes the show's premise. This level of cultural saturation, for a show often dismissed as silly, speaks volumes about its fundamental effectiveness as a piece of mass entertainment. It created a simple, memorable world and filled it with characters that people genuinely enjoyed spending time with, proving that sometimes the most profound impact comes from the simplest, most heartfelt creations. It found its sweet spot in pure, innocent fun and stuck to it, creating something timeless in its very lack of pretension. If you've enjoyed this journey back to the island and our look at what made Gilligan's Island a beloved classic, there's a whole ocean of iconic television waiting to be explored. We love dissecting the magic behind these shows that captured hearts and minds. Don't miss our future explorations. Make sure you've subscribed and become part of our community of classic TV enthusiasts. Now, it's your turn to weigh in. Who was your favorite castaway and why? Do you have a particular episode or moment from Gilligan's Island that you remember fondly? What do you think is the main reason the show has remained so popular after all these years? Share your memories, thoughts, and opinions in the comments section below. Let's talk about the enduring charm of being stranded with the gang on that unforgettable island.